But there's a lesson.
There is. And the lesson is this. The lesson is that Turkey, which is an important ally, will ultimately act in its own national self-interest. And that self-interest dictates that it continue its relationship with the United States. And so I'm confident that we can do what we should do what we need to do, recognize the Armenian genocide. And it won't end our relationship with Turkey. I hope it will spur Turkey to accelerate its own coming to grips with its history.
On April 6th, President Obama spoke to the Turkish parliament, and he said he stood by his 2008 assertion that Ottoman Turks had carried out widespread killing of Armenians early in the 20th century, but he stopped short of repeating the word genocide. What did you think of President Obama's speech?
Well, I would, of course, have loved him to talk about the genocide. If not before the parliament, then at some point during his visit. And I would certainly hope that in his private discussions with Turkey, he was very direct about the Armenian genocide and also prepared them for April 24th, when I hope he will fall through and be very explicit about the Armenian genocide. That's what I hope took place. Now, none of us know, and we'll find out, I guess, on April 24th. I was glad to see that he did not backtrack from his own views on the subject. And he said, my views are well known, and I stand by them. They haven't changed. But I would, of course, like to have seen him go further. And I think it's something that he could have done. There aren't probably many American presidents who could have done it as well. And what I mean by that is this is a president who has shown time after time, and for me I thought it was most pointedly true during his campaign and his speech on race, that he can talk about subjects that are intensely emotional, tough, in a way that will get people to listen and not turn him off and tune him out. And I was hoping that he would bring those considerable talents to bear here. And, you know, he started to do that in a little bit in reflecting about our own history and a history of slavery, a history of devastating treatment of the Native Americans. And I think that was the opportunity to say, look, we're not uncritical about our own history. You can't be uncritical about yours. And, you know, we have to be honest about what we've done in our country. That's what I was hoping for, but I'm still doing all I can to encourage him on April 24th.
Flesh out a little bit more the reasons behind Turkey's continued denial of the genocide, because that's not entirely clear to me. Like, I mean, the United States with its treatment of the Indians, while there is, you know, there's a variety of opinions about it, it is something that is accepted. Spent a lot of time in Germany on tour, and that sort of the recognition of the Holocaust there is a cornerstone of sort of the modern democracy there. What are the hurdles that Turkey needs to get over? Our responsibility is the United States, but help explain to the listeners more why it is such a stumbling block for Turkey to get over the recognition of the genocide.
I suspect it's a couple of things. I think most powerfully it's at odds with the views that Turks hold about themselves and their own history. And part of this is because for decades now they have been told and taught a fabrication about history. And not only have they been told and taught about this, the few people who have had the courage to speak out, including Nobel-winning authors, courageous journalists, have been rewarded by being prosecuted under Section 301 of the Turkish Criminal Code, which makes it a crime to insult Turkishness. In other words, makes it a crime to talk about the genocide. So it's difficult when you have been putting people in jail and writing one version of history to say, okay, that was all a lie. So there's just a lot of pent-up investment in this rewriting of history. There may also be concerns, and this gets to your point, Serj, about why words matter. If this is labeled a genocide, does that open Turkey up to claims? Claims based on confiscation of land, claims based on confiscation of property. There may be a concern about that too.
How have the apologists? You were talking about people that were in prison in Turkey under Article 301. And I always think, you know, when there's congressmen or when there's political leaders that go up and say we should support Turkey, and when some of their people are speaking out about this, and a lot of those people are being pursued from what I'm hearing, and how are our actions helping the denialists in Turkey, putting their own citizens and their own human rights activists in prison and hurting them.
I think we are undermining reformers in Turkey by our complicity in this campaign of denial. A year and a half ago, when we were so close to passing the resolution in the House, and the administration was weighing in with all force to stop it, they were basically legitimizing the threats that Turkey was making. You can't do this because Turkey's going to do this. They weren't pushing back against Turkey, saying, listen, you're our ally. You can't respond this way. When the U.S. Congress speaks about history, they were legitimizing this kind of extortive campaign. And I think when we become complicit ourselves in this campaign of denial, when we allow ourselves to be silenced, we tell reformers in Turkey who have a lot more on the line because, their lives, their liberties are at stake. We're saying, hey, most powerful nation on earth is not willing to speak plainly. Why should you?
Right.
So I think it really undermines what they're doing.
I mean, that lack of moral fortitude was a hallmark of the last 8 years, and hopefully there'll be some winds of change. But all the weight of the issue, how much of the weight of the issue seems to be pointing to the current talks between leaders of Turkey and Armenia, and do you know how that's progressing?
Well, this is this year's reason. This year's
reason du jour.
Exactly. It's the current refrain. Why this year is just not the right year, and in this, Turkey's been very strategic. I'm completely convinced, and this is I hear on the ground from overseas as well as in this country, that what is driving Turkey to have these talks over reconciliation and opening the border with Armenia is the fear that the U.S. will recognize the Armenian genocide. It is propelling them to move forward with this reconciliation. I would be thrilled if there's a reconciliation. I'd be thrilled if the border is open. I don't think that precludes us from speaking plainly about the truth. I don't think it should. I don't think it can. But I am deeply skeptical that not only is this driving these discussions, but if we get to April 24th and go beyond it, and the president doesn't speak plainly about this, I think that the discussions will quietly go away, because I fear they're a pretense to avoid recognition this year. They're just, as you point out, the reason du jour.
How can people get involved in House Resolution 252? Is there a number they can call? How can people get involved in getting this resolution passed and for Barack Obama to stand by his words?
This is crunch time because the president's going to have to make a decision before April 24th, what he's going to say on the 24th. So we have a narrow window opportunity to weigh in as strongly and loudly as we possibly can. And there are several ways we can do that. The more we can increase the co-sponsors of the resolution, the more we can give confidence to the president. He's not alone in this. There are strong, bipartisan numbers of members who are on record, who have signed on the line saying, I'm a co-sponsor. I believe we ought to recognize the Armenian genocide. So that's one way people can help. They can make sure that their member of Congress is a co-sponsor. They can also weigh in with the White House directly. They can contact others they know that may have influence in the White House and get them to weigh in. This is the time to pull out all the stops. This is a president who I think emotionally wants to be with us on this issue and has a great track record on it. We need to make sure that we're covering his back. And I guarantee you, the White House is going to be hearing plenty from the Turkish side, and none of that's going to be terribly helpful.
I actually have a number for the White House. I just happen to have it in my pocket here. You can call 202-456-1414 and urge him to take concrete steps to end the Darfur genocide and recognize the Armenian genocide.
Can I say one other thing?
Sure.
Because I think this is something we need to actively discourage the administration from doing. Reading between some of the lines of what the president said in Turkey, words to the effect of, it's most important what the Armenians and the Turks have to say about this. The Turks for years have peddled an idea of setting up a historic commission to decide what really happened. Now, because there's no debate about what really happened, the idea of setting up a historic commission to determine whether genocide took place is as offensive to the victims of the Armenian genocide as you might imagine. If we somehow supported the establishment of a commission to determine whether a Holocaust took place, would be offensive to the Jewish community. I think this is a non-starter, and while it has a superficial appeal to people who really don't want to go there and just don't want to touch this issue, it's not an answer.
Right.
And that is Representative Adam Schiff being interviewed by Serj Tankian and Tom Morello, co-hosts of the Axis of Justice radio network.